What's up, guys? In today's video, we are going to talk about how this shit likely has completely crashed my testosterone levels, turning me into more or less a woman. What if the answer to all of my problems is the Sauzule?
According to YouTube guidelines shown here, videos which intend to educate are documentary by nature and do not glorify the use of drugs. Both abide by the community safety guidelines and are eligible for monetization. The following video does not glorify the use of drugs. Instead, attempts to be non-biased while delivering vital life-saving information disguised as entertainment. We do not display graphic use. There are no scenes showcasing drug consumption, and any insinuation of use should be taken as satirical at best.
Nothing against people who actually want to transition into being female, I simply did not want to do so. In fact, the very thing that makes us men, testosterone, is what I believe this compound has unfortunately deprived me of. Testosterone is responsible for, growing facial hair, deepening of the voice. It's released by your goddamn balls. It is the male sex hormone, and men who lack testosterone, also known as having hypogonadism, well, they also display an array of negative effects, which I happen to be experiencing thanks to my recent podcast with Derek from moreplatesmoredates.com. He got me thinking I better go and get some blood work done because I have abused the shit out of opioid-like compounds in the past and maybe even presently, as well as a whole other myriad of substances that probably had a very negative effect on my body's hormone production, and maybe it had something to do with the decline of my mood steadily over the past 5 years, and how, if you are a friend of mine, you would know I basically self-isolate. I don't speak to anybody. I feel overwhelmed all the time. I mean, granted, I've got a lot going on with family and kids and work, but it's like I just don't want to talk to people. It goes beyond just using the excuse of being busy. I just legitimately do not want to talk to anybody. Like, I basically just want to be left alone all the time, and that's not really how I used to be. Also, the decline in my sexual appetite and a whole other array of problems that I don't really want to get into here led me to finally getting a comprehensive blood panel done, which we are going to get into. Of course, we're going to further dive into this with Derek. We're going to do a video together, I believe, where he helps me dissect this from his knowledge base, and he's the king when it comes to this shit, compared to me at least. I don't know what the hell I'm reading. Just straight up, this is not my forte. I've done limited research on what most of this means, but I do have a general broad spectrum idea of when the number is low, it means that you're fucked. But before we get into my very high levels of testosterone, let's talk about what I believe caused them to plummet so deeply. That would be the, as I affectionately refer to it, as the green sludge. It is currently in its powdered form. It hasn't yet been turned into sludge. And yes, even with all of this information given, I did consume some of this before this video. Oh, but Adam, you made a video talking about how you were off Kratom. Well, this is what I've been having issues with. I get off it for months. I get back on it. I get off it. I get back on it. It's this never-ending merry-go-round that I can never seem to be rid of myself of, and it seems every time I go back on it, largely for reasons of productivity, I have a very difficult time focusing thanks to ADHD, and I don't want to take the prescribed compounds, so I see things like Kratom, naively, as safer than something like Ritalin or amphetamine. Just to be clear, that's largely why I fall back on it. It's because I struggle to keep the ADHD in check, and in light doses, this does help in the beginning stages at least, but it always winds down into hurting me more than helping me, which is why I always go on it, get off it, go on it, get off it. And I started to notice, as this cycle has continued for the past 5 or 6 years, it's gotten increasingly harder and harder to get off it, and my bouts of being off it get shorter and shorter, where it turns out that I'm actually on it more than off it. I end up being on it much more frequently. For example, years ago, I would maybe take it once or twice max in a day, and then it progressed to taking it multiple times all throughout the day, smaller doses. But I have now learned that it's not really about the size of, it is about the size of the dose, but it's ideally better to say take one big dose than it would be to split that big dose up into a bunch of small doses throughout the day, because that's constantly, as you're going to see with the stats I'm going to read to you, hitting your brain with, opioid-like compounds, which is going to have a cascading negative effect on your body's hormone production, among other things, where just having that one hit once a day is going to be less detrimental, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. In my research, I've tried to look up whether or not Kratom has been found to cause declining levels of testosterone in men. Of course, with all the Kratom advocates out there, and I'm not against Kratom, by the way, it does help some people. I don't want it to seem like I'm all hating on it, but they do make it very difficult to dig up legitimate info on what the actual negative effects might be. It's so convoluted because nobody wants to talk about the bad shit because they're all afraid of getting this stuff banned. But essentially what I found was two, I believe, peer-reviewed, like doctorate papers outlining two, I'm going to put a link in the description below, outlining two incidences where it has been documented where somebody ceased their ingestion of Kratom and their testosterone returned back to normal. There's also, a myriad of anecdotal reports of people saying that they believe it lowered their testosterone, and some people do say that it's proven to lower testosterone, but I'm just gonna shut up all the naysayers with this simple quote from just a simple Google search where you look up opioid-induced hypogonadism, and this is what it says. It says, the reported prevalence of opioid-induced hypogonadism ranges from 21 to 86%. Testosterone concentrations seem to drop more than 50%. More than 50% within a few hours of taking an opioid. That means within a few hours of potentially consuming Kratom, which isn't a traditional opioid, but its primary action site via mitragina speciosa is on the opioid receptors. Well, within a few hours, your testosterone is going to drop more than 50%. Returning to baseline, it says usually returning to baseline within 24 to 72 hours after withdrawal. Depending on the dose used, it may take up to a month to recover. Now imagine you're dosing multiple times a day, and each time you dose, your testosterone is dropping 50%. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily cumulatively keep dropping 50% and 50% and 50%, because then you'll be left with in the negatives eventually. But what's going to happen is as your testosterone drops, you're not giving it enough time to fully recover. So you are going to have an effect where I believe if you're taking it daily, as most opioid users experience, of full-on hypogonadism, of low testosterone. And what they do is they actually block the release from the pituitary gland of, I got it on my papers. Here we go. The follicle-stimulating hormone FSH and luteinizing hormone LH. I can't speak right now. Apparently, the opioids interfere with that. Basically, the pituitary gland signals via these hormone releases the testicles to release testosterone, and I believe Kratom, of course, you can't quote me on this because Kratom hasn't traditionally been proven without shadow of a doubt to decline testosterone production, but I believe it does simply for the fact that all opioids seem to do that. There are a few opioids, I forget the name of them right now, that are claimed to have negligible effects on testosterone. So those do exist, but I don't think Kratom is one of them. Anyway, so Kratom comes in, it blocks the hormone releases, so your balls never get actually signaled to release testosterone, and you end up with all these negative side effects. And for me, the driving home fact that I know Kratom does this, besides the glaring blood work, is that as soon as I take it, within an hour or so, my sex drive gets shut down completely. In fact, it was a driving factor in me wanting to take Kratom because I had a very high sex drive that wasn't able to be met at a certain time of my life, and it was frustrating me that I was always horny. So it was a driving factor in me taking Kratom because I actually liked how it reduced that horniness. It felt good to not constantly be sexually frustrated. So I would take the Kratom and it was great. But then I think as my use escalated and continued periodically with these on and off bouts of abstinence and then full throttle, I think that what ended up happening was there's been this compounding effect of Kratom as well as other lifestyle choices, which has caused my testosterone levels to, well, let's just talk about it. We've got FSH, the shit getting released from the pituitary gland. My result is 2.2 IU/L, and the reference range is anything under 9.5. So that's pretty low. My LH, luteinizing hormone, is 1.9 with the reference range of 1.1 to 8.8. 1.1 to 8.8, and I'm 1.9. Pretty damn low. As you can see, these are low, which means that they're not signaling a lot of testosterone to be released. So let's talk about that now. So we got my total testosterone. Keep in mind this is Canada, so we use NMO/L. I'm going to convert it to nanograms per deciliters, NG/DL for you Americans that want to understand this better. So my testosterone total is 8.7, which is 251 nanograms per deciliters. In the States, you're considered low. By most, keep in mind all the labs have different standards, but by most standards, if you're below 300 or 350, you're considered like, holy shit, you basically need to go on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, immediately kind of deal. Canada's reference range, shockingly, is 8.4 to 28.8 nmol/L, which translates to 242 to 831 nanograms per deciliter, which means by these standards, I'm 251, and the lowest it can go is 242. So I'm just like right almost below the, oh my god, you're in serious shit. As long as you're within this range, even if you're at the very, like, I'm basically at the bottom of the range, a lot of doctors will still say to you that you don't need hormone therapy, that you should be fine. Even if you present them with an array of negative symptoms, they'll still be hesitant to prescribe, at least in Canada. Canada is notoriously bad for prescribing it. I'm going to get into what my doctor said at the end of this, but let's get into free. So then we got testosterone free, which Canada does at PMO/L, which is weird. I don't know why they didn't just stick with the nmol. Basically, to measure that, you do 3 decimal places over to get the nmol number. So it's saying mine is 135 free, and if I want to convert that to the nmol/L, it's basically 0.135. So to make it easy, let's convert that to nanograms per deciliters. If I'm not confusing the shit out of everybody watching, my free testosterone turns out to be 4 nanograms per deciliters. For the Canadian nmol/L, the range would be 0.115 to 0.577. And if I'm 0.135 and the bottom is 0.115, I'm again at the very bottom of the free testosterone. Let's go to bioavailable testosterone. We got me at 3.2 nmol/L, which is 92 nanograms per deciliters, with a range of 2.7 to 13.5 nmol/L. And if I'm at 3.2 and the lowest is 2.7, again, bioavailable testosterone, I'm right there at the freaking bottom. But then when you go to my SHBG levels, my sex hormone binding globulin, they're actually pretty normal. The range is 10 to 70 nmol/L, and mine is 46.8. So it's actually in the higher end of that. Again, lines up. If you're in the higher end of the SHBG, it's my understanding that it means there's less ability for testosterone to bind. Sorry, it means there's less free testosterone because a lot of it is being binded to the globulin. So it means that you've got less free testosterone going to the muscles. I might have just totally butchered that. I was just reading about it, but now my brain is starting to get foggy because symptoms of low T are brain fog, among one, severe depression, among another, erectile dysfunction, which thankfully I never had. Maybe less like rock solid erections. I'm used to being like basically a steel rod kind of, and maybe it's gone down to like some balsam wood level, but it's not like unusable by any means. However, in terms of just sheer horniness, you know what's weird is even with these real low levels, I'm still able to get horny. I'm just not like a sex fiend. So I might, prior to this lovely stuff that I am again taking once more. Even knowing all this information, I'm so addicted, I'm still taking that. How's that for transparency, guys? Of course, I want to get off it, and I'm going to talk about my plan to once and for all get off it soon. But even with this obliterating my testosterone, I still get horny. Doesn't make any damn sense. It's not like I'm always thinking about sex. It's actually been relieving, to be completely honest with you. Everyone always talks about the bad effects of low T, but it's been like nice to be able to, I don't know, not always be checking out chicks or thinking about getting your, It's actually been kind of nice, and I've at least seen some positives to having low testosterone. Have noticed, and it's funny because it's all making sense now why, but I've been so much more calm lately. Like, obviously having high testosterone equates to higher levels of aggression. They talk about roid rage, which isn't necessarily a thing. Maybe if you're already an angry guy and you take steroids, it's going to exacerbate that. But I have noticed, at least recently, that I've just been so much more relaxed, less likely to anger. I let more things just roll off my back. And I thought that it was all thanks to my meditation practices. And maybe it was, but maybe it's a mix of meditating and also having the testosterone levels of a woman. I mean, they're not quite at female levels. Let's see what females are at. Hold on. So females range from 15 to 70 nanograms per deciliter. And mine was at 251. I'm not quite a girl yet. still pretty good, I think. It might be at the bottom of the barrel for men, but being male's overrated anyway. So it's a bit of an exaggeration to say that it's making me a woman. But anyway, other interesting blood work to note would be my hemoglobin, which is actually flagged. My hemoglobin is 134 G/L. Not sure what that means. Grams per liter? I don't know. Reference range is 135 to 170. So I'm like 134, just below. And then my hematocrit, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is 0.39. Again, one below. The reference range starts at 0.40 to 0.50. So I'm just below that, which according to Derek, I'm not sure why, he said this is also relative of low T. Oh shit. Yeah, actually, if you look at like my red blood cell count, I'm 430, and then the reference range is 4.20 to 5.40, and I'm 4.30, so not a huge red blood cell count. Like if you're high testosterone, then one of the things that you have to watch out for that can be dangerous is your red blood cell count goes up. A lot of people, this is a risk of taking steroids, but in my case, I would be healthy for this to go up, meaning it's showing that potentially the low testosterone is affecting other biomarkers, and it's resulting in my overall health being in the shitter. And I do want to touch a little bit on what has caused this. I don't want to put all of the acclaim on Miss Kratom. I think there's been more at play than just that. I do believe that my diet, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that I went through this crazy cutting phase just a little less than a year ago, where I cut my calories down to an average 16 to 1800 a day. And during this period, I was getting very little sleep, maybe 4 to 6 hours. And they've done studies where they actually took males and they restricted their sleep to 4 hours a night, pretty much exactly what I had. And they cut their calories down to 1800 a day, which is on some days more than I had. And they found that after being on this diet, I think it was for, 1 to 2 months, that their testosterone levels were literally cut in half. So if I'm taking Kratom, okay, and I was doing my cutting phase, and I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night, you got that cutting my testosterone in half, then you got the Kratom bringing it down, and it's like, no wonder. The problem is, now that my T levels are so low, how do we get them back up again? Like, is it as simple as simply discontinuing Kratom use? And then also keep in mind, it might actually be a stretch to even assume that Kratom has anything to do with it. It is not proven that Kratom does cause a decrease in testosterone. This is simply my own experience, and this is what I believe to be happening just based off mainly my own personal experience of feeling so less horny when I take it. And like, isn't that direct evidence? Like, I take it, I am no longer horny. Isn't that directly related to my testosterone lowering? I mean, I think so, but maybe not. You could argue maybe it causes desensitization of the penis so you feel less horny. But for me, it's not about that. It's all the mental game, man. It's always been the mental game for me. And if those hormones are lessened, which actually are the reason for men feeling horny to begin with, then no shit, the Kratom's lowering my testosterone if I take it and I feel less horny. For me, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. But again, we can't say that for sure because we got to wait for the science to catch up and all these goddamn assholes who don't want to talk about facts because Kratom's saving their life. And I love that. It's helped me dramatically. It's funny making this video, but I still can't sit here and hate on it, even though I am currently severely lowered the dose, of course, but still consuming. So let's get on to that part of the video. This is what happens. It causes this cycle. So obviously, here's what's going on now. Now that whether the Kratom or by the way, I'm eating normal again and I'm trying to sleep better. It's hard. My sleep is still shit, to be totally fair. I'm doing my best to fix it. And I think the sleep is so shit because of the Kratom. It's the cycle that it gets you in, where it's like I would always dose in the morning first thing. So because I've lowered the dose now and like I just have a dose in the morning and I go all day without it, my body tries to wake me up early to get that first dose because it knows that when it wakes up, I'm going to have that dose. So it's like now the Kratom is really messing with my sleep, which is further messing with my testosterone even more because it wants to wake me up to take it. Frustrating, man, frustrating. But anyway, the Kratom gets you in this cycle where the longer you're on it, the harder it is to kick because what ends up happening is when you're first taking it, I mean, assuming that it does cause the effects, let's just pretend for a second that it does and it is responsible for these low T levels, or at least partially. your baseline is good, right? You're taking it and your baseline is already good. And then you slowly start taking kratom more and more. And the more your kratom use goes up, say their baseline's here and your use is here in the beginning, the kratom use goes up and your baseline gets lower. So it gets to the point where, I mean, this is actually how drugs affect the brain. You need to keep taking the drug just to feel normal, because when you're addicted to something, what happens is the brain is always trying to reach a state of homeostasis. So say kratom is causing an increase in dopamine or serotonin, and it's stimulating those opioid receptors, making you feel good. What's going to happen is your brain is going to downregulate its opioid receptors, and it's going to release less dopamine to make up for this spike. So it's like it's not going to keep producing all of its normal dopamine and its normal opioid shit plus the kratom, which is why in the beginning when you first start taking it, it feels so good because your brain's already naturally good. It's at a good, solid baseline, and then you're adding the kratom to it, which is like hyping it way up. But then what ends up happening is the longer you're on it, your brain, it's like, oh shit, we can't have these mega high levels. It starts to readjust for the exogenous drug input that it's receiving daily. So it lowers the amount of dopamine that it releases naturally in a day. It's going to lower your opioid stimulus effect. It's going to, downregulate the amount of opioid receptors in the brain to make up for this surge of opioid-like effects. And what's going to end up happening is now when you're not on the kratom, and keep in mind, the more you're dosing, this is why frequent doses are so bad, because if you're dosing all throughout the day, you're constantly getting exogenous kratom, exogenous amounts of dopamine and opioids throughout the day to the point where your brain is like, wow, now we gotta, it just tells it to shut off. Similar to how it tells your testicles to shut off when you take steroids because your body's like, oh, now we're getting all this exogenous steroid use. Well, I guess the testes can go on vacation for a while because we're getting it elsewhere. Same thing happens. Your brain starts shutting down its dopamine, less opioid receptors, because now it's got to make up for that constant influx that you're giving yourself of kratom every day. That is your new normal. And the brain is always trying to reach this state of homeostasis, meaning it doesn't want to keep your levels at these super physiological doses of happiness. It wants to keep you at your baseline. So it's going to create a new baseline, which unfortunately needs the exogenous drug input to maintain, because this is what it gets every day. It's just reacting to the input you're giving it. You're giving it these drugs, so every day it's got to readjust and keep maintaining that level so that you stay at a relative baseline. So it does eventually get to the point. This is why people have tolerance and have to keep raising the dose, because you got to keep raising the dose higher and higher and higher, because your body is constantly lowering its baseline to make up for this input. So it's like eventually where you would get off on 4 grams, now you need 8, and then you hear stories of people taking like 20 to 30 grams of kratom a day, which I used to believe was enough to kill a person. I thought that was the overdose number, but there's some people out there who can actually tolerate that. And it's insane that they're not dropping dead. And I think actually some of them probably are. You just don't hear about it, to be completely honest. Especially when you combine that with something that could cause respiratory depression, even though kratom does it in normal doses and mega doses. You got to bet your ass you're going to have some negative, life-threatening side effects if you combine it with other drugs. So here's what's happening. Essentially, you're getting fucked. And now when you want to get off it and say you subtract the kratom, not only is your baseline so low because your brain hasn't been releasing these things naturally anymore, so you got to slowly build back up, which is what you call the withdrawal, which is when your body is going like, oh shit, now we've got to raise our levels to reach the homeostasis because we've removed the exogenous input. And, you go through a lot of debilitating shit. People say it can last anywhere from 7 days to a month or even more, depending on how long you were using, how high your doses were. Your own individual body chemistry plays a role here. But on top of that, why it's so hard to quit when you've been taking it for so long is because not only is my body producing less dopamine and less, opioids than it naturally does, but it's also interrupted my own hormone functions. So like, again, all those symptoms of low testosterone, I'm getting hit with daily as the kratom wears off because I'm like, basically, I am a hypogonadal male at this point with low T. Again, I speculate thanks to kratom. There is also the off chance that it has nothing to do with kratom, and this is just completely natural. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the kratom has nothing to do with it. Maybe this whole video is hatred on kratom, and I'm just talking out of my ass. Who the f*** knows? But what I do know is that I got a problem. And for every problem, there's a solution. So since now I'm so dependent on it and I feel like such shit. I mean, granted, I could get through it. I can force myself, grit my teeth, and bear through some more withdrawals and, also wait for my testosterone to return to normal on top of it. But it's going to severely impact my ability to parent. I'm going to be shit for my family for a while. Doing work. Business is going to plummet during that time. And it's like the trade-off. It gets steeper and steeper. Like, I really can't afford to make that trade-off. And you would say, Adam, it's your health. You can always afford to make the trade-off. But what if there's another option? What if there is something else that I can do? Kratom replacement therapy. What if I can stimulate my testosterone production so that the kratom, interfering with the pituitary process is no longer a thing, allowing me to no longer feel such debilitating effects without it and giving me that extra boost I need to finally kick this shit. What if the answer to all of my problems is the Sauzule? Of course, with testosterone levels this low at the rock bottom, guys, guess what my doctor prescribed me? The Sauzule. Oh man, should I do it? Should I start testosterone replacement therapy as a stepping stone to get my T levels back to baseline, to ultimately help me kick this green demon once and for all? And then, hey, maybe we cycle off it, and then we see, once I'm through with that, because now I'm not going to have to deal with the low T effects of waiting. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm really not sure that I want to take this plunge, because what if I start the TRT therapy, which I've already been prescribed, and then I stay on it? What if I start enjoying the steroids? What if I become a juice monkey? What if my body just blows up? Because this is what I don't get. I got no testosterone, and this is what I look like? I am good muscle size. What is this? Look at this shit. How the fuck have I built this on no testosterone? I'm not delusional. I don't think I look amazing by any means, but for a natural dude, I've got some good muscle size going on. And I built this on hypogonadal levels of testosterone. What the actual fuck? This is a good example of what hard work can actually do, because I work my ass off. I train hard. So you guys have no excuse if this is what I've been able to accomplish. Again, I'm not saying that I'm anything spectacular, but I have visible muscles. You would expect someone with this level of testosterone to be fat or a twig. Granted, I've put on some body fat recently, but that's probably because of having no testosterone. I've noticed now, if I eat even 2,000 calories a day while still training and jogging, okay, I'm at 2,000 calories right now, and I've almost lost my abs. It's like I can't even eat more than 1,800 if I want to stay lean. And that's another side effect of low testosterone. One of the biggest changes that people see when they hop on the Sauzule is they have body recomp where they can eat at maintenance calories, but all of a sudden at maintenance calories, they burn more belly fat than before. They've got more abs. I don't know. I don't know if I should start this. I don't know if this is something that I want to do, but I do know that I 100% want to get off this train. I don't think this stuff is good. I understand that I do believe it's better than the prescribed ADHD meds that I've got, and it has been working to keep me focused, but it's you would think that the meditation or the microdosing or all of these things would help, but it's the microdosing helps me in ways non-business related. It doesn't help me sit down and get shit done. The microdosing is great for a myriad of other things, but when it comes to getting stuff done, my ADHD symptoms have just gotten so much more exacerbated over the years, and thanks to being addicted to amphetamines for a while, I am still in a worse place than before I tried them, and it's like, I don't know what to do, guys. You know what? No, I didn't actually just inject myself with testosterone. No, that was all for show. I thought that would make a good little skit. I did actually just stab a needle into my butt, though. How'd that look? Did it look good? Felt good, I'll tell you that much. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video where I discuss, in more depth and a little more realistically if I'm going to follow through with the doctor's orders and go on this testosterone replacement therapy, or if I'm going to do another stab at kicking the green monster on my own. I'd say this is probably a very ambitious attempt at getting off Kratom. I mean, have you ever heard of somebody considering using TRT as a stepping stone to quitting Kratom? Sounds pretty crazy, but I mean, I'm a pretty crazy guy. And to be completely honest with all you guys, once I saw how bad my T levels were, and once I went through the list of side effects, I mean, let's go through it together. This video is already long as hell. Let's just keep it going. Side effects of low testosterone. Here we go. Top result is reduced sex drive, reduced erectile function, maybe a little bit, loss of body hair. I've been losing eyelashes and shit. Less beard growth. Oh man, my beard used to be so full. Now look at it. Loss of lean muscle mass. Honestly, I might look, like I got a decent amount of muscle mass on me, but it has been remarkably hard to do this. Like everything has had to be so on point perfect. Like I have to eat protein all day, all throughout the day. I wake up in the middle of the night and eat protein. Like I have everything, training, diet on point. And I feel like if I mess up just a little bit, I'm weaker. So I would say yes, loss of muscle mass. Feeling tired all the time, 100%. Obesity. Oh, yeah, look at this. Oh, look at this gut. Oh my God. Oh, I'm such a fatty. Oh, I can barely stand. Oh, so fat. Symptoms of depression. Yeah, the self-isolation. If you're a friend of mine and you're watching this, it's not personal. If you're my family and you're watching this, it's not personal. I don't know why I have been feeling this way progressively for so long, but now I do. Now I f***ing do. What happens when a man's testosterone are low? If a male has low levels of testosterone, the symptoms can include erectile dysfunction, reduced bone mass, and sex drive. Oh boy. The development of the bones and muscles, the deepening of the voice. We all know that I got a real high voice. But yeah, we're going to go over more in depth in another video, the drawbacks to taking the TRT therapy. If I actually think it is a legitimate course of action for quitting Kratom. However, what I would say is that if you're someone watching this who feels like they can't live without Kratom, I would highly suggest you go and get your blood work done, get your total T test tested, get your free T tested. You got to get these things as well. You need to make sure that you get your thyroid function, TSH, your FSH, your LH, your bioavailable testosterone, and your SHBG. Get all of those referenced, and of course your hemoglobin and hematocrit and all that shit. Get all of that checked because, yeah. I'd love to open up a forum of discussion for all of us people who use Kratom, and I'd like to see the percent of us who have low T. In fact, what I would recommend you do is, what was that stat? I think it said that within a few hours after opioid use, testosterone drops 50%. So specifically, time going to the doctor to get your testosterone levels checked, I would say 2 or 3 hours after your first dose of Kratom. Try to make it like, if you multiple throughout the day, take it after, that first big dose and then see what it looks like. I would be shocked, absolutely stunned, if people get their blood work done a few hours after taking a decent dose of Kratom and they have high testosterone. That'll blow my mind. In fact, if you want to do one better, go get your blood work done a couple hours after taking Kratom for testosterone. Then, I don't know how many of you can do this, but if you have the willpower to do this, stave off the Kratom for 2 days, for 48 hours, and then get your blood work done again at the same time of day with the same amount of sleep and see what your testosterone levels are at. That would be kind of like the ultimate test if Kratom is responsible for knocking our T levels down. And hey, who knows, if enough of you guys do these tests and if enough of you guys get your test back and your testosterone level is normal with Kratom, or with or without, it's pretty much normal, then I guess my whole theory of Kratom abolishing my T levels is in the shitter, and I guess that it's just me, and this is a natural occurrence of me in my life, and then I will know, thanks to your feedback, if I really do need to take this TRT. I mean, there are some benefits of going on TRT. I'm going to get jacked, man. This chubby part of my belly, where I have to go like below 1,800 calories to get like ripped and diced looking here, I think with the TRT, this will just be leaned out, chiseled. I'm going to look denser. I don't know, man. It's going to be really fascinating to see what it does to my body. Of course, that's kind of an added benefit. The primary reason for taking it is obviously to feel better, because I feel like such shit right now that I feel like there's no way in hell that I can kick the Kratom, because like without it, my mood is so down, and I want to be a healthy human being. And you would argue we all have our vices. Some people it's alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do anything. Basically the only thing that I got left, and the one thing that I keep jumping back to, is this. This is it, man. I got no other addictions going on whatsoever, which is awesome. I mean, that's a success all in its own right. Like a lot of people smoke, they smoke weed, they drink alcohol, they got a long list. For me, it's just this, but I think the negative effects of this, at least for me, if it is causing this decrease in testosterone, far outweigh the benefits. Anyway, if you enjoyed this absolutely whack, batshit crazy video, smash that like button. Let's get this shared so we can get the word out that if you take opioids and drink Kratom, you have the testosterone of a 70 to 80-year-old man. Let's get that word out, guys, because I want more people to realize just how detrimental these drugs can be to your body beyond just, you feel low without them. Like, there's a reason for you feeling low without them. It's fucking with your hormones. Anyway, smash that like button. The more people who like this video, the more likely YouTube is to share it, and the more likely we are to beat this shadow ban. So yeah, hit the like button, leave a bunch of comments. I love you guys. Just leave the algorithm comments. Let's get this video viewed by tons of people. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, take care, guys. And I will update you all soon on my decision to hit the Sauzule, or what, I'll probably if I do decide to go through with it, I'll probably document the entire experience from like my first real injection, so I can show you guys what it's actually like, to how I feel the subsequent weeks or months after. And I think this is also a video that Derek and I are going to sit down. Like, Derek and I are definitely going to sit down and go over my blood work together, because that'll be interesting. I'd love to hear his analysis on some of this. Yeah, I have so many questions to ask him about, like, just how jacked does he think I'm going to get on testosterone? Because it would be nice to, like, look good. Anyway, see you guys later.